Imagine this. The year is 2035. You decide to take a trip to Europe to visit the old world. You start your morning with a croissant in Paris. You take a high-speed train to Berlin for lunch, and you finish with a beer in Munich. It is beautiful. The architecture is stunning. The history is palpable. The streets are clean. But something feels off. The cafes are full, but mostly with gray hair. The shops are open, but they are selling souvenirs, not innovation. And when you try to buy something made locally, you realize the shop isn't owned by a local. In fact, entire city blocks, the ports, and the energy grid are owned by foreign conglomerates. You aren't walking through a superpower anymore. You are walking through the world's most expensive open-air museum. This is not a dystopian fantasy. This is the mathematical trajectory of Europe today. Back in 2008, the economies of the European Union and the United States were roughly the same size. In fact, Europe was slightly bigger. They were economic twins, two pillars of the Western world. But then, something happened. The twins separated. Fast forward to today. While the American economy rocketed to over $27 trillion, Europe has largely stagnated, barely crawling past 17 trillion. The gap between them is now so large, it is effectively the size of the entire Japanese economy, or 3 Germanys. Think about that. In just 15 years, America grew by 87%. Europe grew by just 13%. If this trend continues, the average European in 2050 will be poorer than the average resident of Mississippi, the poorest state in America. How did this happen? How did a continent with the highest standard of living, the best healthcare, and the deepest history fall so far, so fast? Spoiler alert. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't bad luck. It was a suicide. An economic suicide, committed in slow motion. Over the next 30 minutes, we are going to dissect the fatal wounds that are bleeding Europe dry. From the factories of Germany going dark, to the empty nurseries of Italy, to the regulatory stranglehold in Brussels. We are going to look at the de-industrialization of a giant. We are going to see what happens when a country decides that green dreams are more important than cold reality. And most importantly, we are going to ask the question that every American needs to answer. Is this our future too? We look at Europe and we feel superior. We see their high taxes, we see their slow growth, and we think, that can't happen here. But look closer. Look at our own Rust Belt. Look at our own energy policies. Look at our own national debt. The symptoms are different, but the disease is the same. The disease of forgetting how to make things. Europe is the canary in the coal mine. The lights are going out in Berlin. And if we aren't careful, the lights will go out in Detroit, and Pittsburgh, and Chicago next. This is Fiscal Folklore, and this is the European Warning. Part 2. The Energy Suicide. To understand why Europe is dying, you don't look at the banks, you don't look at the stock market, you look at the pipes. For 20 years, Germany built its entire economy on a single gamble. A gamble that seemed brilliant at the time, but turned out to be fatal. The gamble was simple. They would build the world's best factories. They would pay high wages to skilled workers. And they would power it all with cheap, infinite Russian gas. They built pipelines directly to Moscow. Nord Stream 1, Nord Stream 2. They turned off their nuclear power plants. They shut down their coal mines. They bet everything on the idea that the gas would never stop flowing. And then, in February 2022, history returned. The tanks rolled into Ukraine, the sanctions hit, and then the pipelines exploded. Overnight, the German business model evaporated. Let me give you a specific example. A company called BASF. You might not know the name, but civilization as we know it depends on them. BASF is the largest chemical producer in the world. Their main factory in Ludwigshafen is not just a factory, it is a city. It consumes as much natural gas as the entire country of Switzerland. Why do they need so much gas? Not just to burn it for heat, but for chemistry. There is a process called Haber-Bosch. It takes natural gas and turns it into ammonia, and ammonia turns into fertilizer, and fertilizer turns into food. Without this process, half the world would starve. Gas is not just energy for BASF. It is the raw material. It is the blood. When the Russian gas stopped, BASF didn't just face a high bill. They faced an existential crisis. They looked at the math. In the United States, thanks to the shale revolution and fracking, natural gas costs about $2 to $3. In Germany, after the crisis, it hit $30, 10 times the cost. You cannot compete with that. It doesn't matter how smart your engineers are. It doesn't matter how efficient your robots are. If your basic input cost is 10 times higher than your competitor, you are dead. So, what did BASF do? Did they fight? Did they innovate? No, they left. They announced they are permanently downsizing in Europe. They are shutting down ammonia plants in Germany, and they are building a $10 billion complex in China. Think about that. A German company moving to China to escape the energy policies of Europe. And it's not just BASF. It is the steel mills. It is the aluminum smelters. It is the glass makers. Energy-intensive industries are fleeing the continent. They are moving to America. They are moving to Asia. Anywhere where the lights stay on and the price is low. This is what de-industrialization looks like. It isn't a loud explosion. It is the quiet sound of a factory door closing forever. And here is the warning for America. Right now, we have the cheapest energy in the world. We have oil, we have gas, we have nuclear. It is our greatest competitive advantage. But there are voices in Washington, voices in the media, who want us to follow the German path. They want to ban fracking. They want to shut down the pipelines. They want to rush into a green transition without a backup plan. They call it progress. But if you look at Germany today, if you look at the dark factories and the fleeing capital, it has another name: energy suicide. And if we commit it, we will not just lose our cheap gas, we will lose our middle class. Part 3. The Kodak moment. If chemicals are the blood of the German economy, then the automobile is the heart. For 70 years, the phrase "made in Germany" meant one thing: perfection. We worshipped the German engineer. They were the gods of precision. They gave us the Porsche 911, the Mercedes S-Class, the BMW engine. Machines so perfect, they made the rest of the world look like amateurs. But right now, that heart is stopping. And it is not because they forgot how to build engines. It is because they refused to accept that the world had changed. There is a German word, Spaltmaß. It means panel gap. It refers to the tiny millimeter distance between the door of your car and the frame. For decades, German executives were obsessed with this gap. They spent billions of euros making sure it was perfect, to the micrometer. It was their signature. It screamed quality. But while they were obsessing over the door hinge, Silicon Valley and China were rewriting the definition of what a car is. The German engineer sees a car as a mechanical object, a combustion engine with leather seats. But the market? The market now sees a car as a computer on wheels, a smartphone that you can drive. And this is where the tragedy begins. Look at Volkswagen, the biggest car company in Europe. A few years ago, they tried to build their own software. They hired thousands of engineers. They spent billions. And the result was a humiliation. Thousands of their new electric cars rolled off the assembly line and went straight into parking lots, not to be sold, but to sit there. Because the software didn't work. They were bricked. Beautiful hardware with a dead brain. They eventually had to send technicians with laptops, walking from car to car in the rain to manually update the code. It was the equivalent of Apple selling you an iPhone and then sending a guy to your house to install the operating system with a floppy disk. This is what happens when hardware arrogance meets software reality. Germany is having its Kodak moment. Kodak invented the digital camera, but buried it to protect their film business. Germany perfected the internal combustion engine, but ignored the battery and the code to protect their legacy. And now, the predators are circling. Go to a port in Germany today. You will see something that was impossible 10 years ago. Massive ships docking, unloading thousands of high-tech cars. But they aren't Fords. They aren't Toyotas. They are BYD, NIO, XPeng, Chinese cars. And they aren't cheap knockoffs anymore. They are beautiful. Their batteries are better. Their software works like an iPad. And they cost 30% less than a Volkswagen. For 30 years, Germany was the teacher, and China was the student. German companies went to China, gave them the technology, and thought they would always be on top. Well, the student has become the master, and the teacher is being retired. This is the brutal truth of de-industrialization. It happens when you get too comfortable, when you think your brand will save you. And this brings the warning home to America. Look at Detroit. Look at Ford and GM. Are they leading the revolution, or are they begging the government for protection? Right now, America is putting up tariffs. We are building a wall of taxes to keep the Chinese cars out, to protect our own auto industry. But tariffs are not a strategy. They are a bandage. You can delay the funeral, but you cannot stop the death if your product is inferior. Germany thought they were too big to fail. They thought precision was enough. They were wrong. And if Detroit thinks that tradition is enough, they will suffer the exact same fate. But there is another wound bleeding Europe dry. One that cannot be fixed with software or tariffs. One that is much, much slower and much harder to see. The people are disappearing. Part 4. The empty cribs. If the factories closing down is a heart attack, this next problem is a slow-growing cancer. It is quieter, but it is 100% fatal if untreated. Let's take a trip to Italy. Beautiful food, great wine, and absolutely no babies. In 2024, Italy's birth rate hit a historic low, 1.18 children per woman. To put that in perspective, a population needs a rate of 2.1 just to replace itself. Anything below 1.5 is considered a demographic emergency. At 1.18, you are looking at mathematical extinction. Why does this matter to the economy? Why does it matter to you? Imagine you are a 25-year-old Italian named Matteo. You just graduated. You have a degree, but you can't find a job because the economy is stagnant. You live with your parents because rent is insane. But here is the kicker. The Italian state expects you, Matteo, to pay for the pensions of the massive generation of retirees above you. Europe's pension systems are largely pay-as-you-go. That means there is no vault of gold where your grandma's money is stored. The money grandma gets this month comes directly out of Matteo's paycheck this month. In the 1960s, there were 4 workers for every retiree. It was easy. The burden was light. By 2050, in countries like Italy and Spain, there will be fewer than 2 workers for every retiree. Do the math. If 2 people have to pay for the full living expenses, healthcare, and pension of a third person, plus their own expenses, plus the taxes to run the government, what happens? Taxes go up. Massive, crushing taxes. And when taxes go up on labor, what does Matteo do? Does he stay and pay 60% of his income to support a system that will be bankrupt by the time he retires? No. He moves. He goes to the US, or Australia, or Switzerland. This creates a death spiral. Young people leave. The tax base shrinks. The government raises taxes on the few young people remaining to cover the gap, which makes more young people leave. We are already seeing this. In 2024, there were fewer than 370,000 births in Italy. That is the lowest number since the country was unified in 1861. And the political reality makes it worse. Who votes in Europe? Old people. If a politician says, "We need to cut pensions to save the economy," they lose the election by a landslide. If a politician says, "We need to bring in millions of immigrants to fix the ratio," they trigger a cultural backlash and lose the election. So, they do nothing. They borrow money to pay the pensions, kicking the can down the road until the road ends. And folks, we are reaching the cliff. Now, look at America. Our birth rate is falling too. It is not as bad as Italy, yet, but it is below replacement level. 1.6 children per woman. Our social security system is built on the exact same pay-as-you-go math. It is projected to run out of money in 10 years. Europe is showing us what happens when you build a welfare state on a shrinking population. The math doesn't care about your promises. The math doesn't care about your politics. If you don't have workers, you don't have an economy. You just have a very large, very expensive nursing home. This is the demographic winter, and it is coming for us all. But even with no energy and no babies, Europe might have had a chance. If they could innovate, if they could build the next Google or the next Amazon. But they can't, because they have made it illegal. Part 5. The museum or the factory? So, we have seen the energy suicide. We have seen the industrial collapse. We have seen the empty cribs. But there is one final nail in the coffin. One final reason why Europe is falling behind. And it is the most dangerous trap of all. Because it doesn't look like a crisis. It looks like paperwork. Here is a pop quiz. Name a European search engine. Name a European social media giant. Name a European smartphone. You can't, because they don't exist. While America was building Google, Amazon, and Microsoft, while China was building Alibaba and TikTok, Europe was building regulations. There is an old joke in the business world. The United States innovates, China replicates, and Europe regulates. Instead of building the next AI giant, Brussels is busy writing the AI Act. They are writing rules for a game that they aren't even playing. They have regulated their economy into a coma. They have protected their citizens so much that they have protected them from success. And this brings us to the final decision, the crossroads for America. Right now, we are the only major economy that is growing. We have a cheat code. We have the energy. We have the food. We have the demographics, thanks to immigration. And we have the capital markets. Money flows to America because it has nowhere else to go. But we are in danger. We are in danger of throwing it all away by copying the European model. We hear politicians calling for a ban on fracking. That is the European path. We hear calls for massive new regulations on tech. That is the European path. We hear calls to print money to pay for welfare we can't afford. That is the European path. Europe has chosen its future. They have chosen to be a museum, a beautiful, comfortable retirement home, where rich Americans and Chinese tourists go to eat pasta and look at old buildings. The lights will stay on, mostly. But the power, the relevance, is gone. America has a choice. Do we want to be a museum? Or do we want to be a factory? Do we want to be a place that preserves the past, or a place that builds the future? If we choose the path of de-industrialization, if we choose to demonize our own energy, if we choose to tax our innovators to death, then the year 2035 won't just be a grim reality for Berlin. It will be the reality for us all. The warning lights are flashing across the Atlantic. Germany has shown us exactly what happens when you ignore the laws of physics and economics. The question is, are we arrogant enough to think we are immune? Or are we smart enough to change course? History doesn't care about our feelings. It only cares about what we build. If you believe that America must remain a producer, not just a consumer, if you believe in the hard truth over the easy lie, then you are in the right place. We will keep watching the signs. We will keep reading the map. Join us at Fiscal Folklore.